start off the panel for everyone who's watching it.
Actually, tomorrow.
This is mostly to orient the direction of the panel. Everyone who's seeing this panel, are you all into Tokusatsu already?
Woo!
Thanks, fan.
Okay.
Are
you guys all into
Webster Room C.
Tokusatsu already?
You could say so.
2%. We were the drama
Webster
Power
Room
Rangers.
C.
Okay.
Oh.
The main question
Third
is whether or
floor.
not anyone here needs to know, like, on a baseline what any of
Webster
this stuff
Room
is.
C,
It
third
sounds like
floor.
you all more or less.
I was one of those ones.
All right.
I'm the only one.
You will be learning a whole lot.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey.
But we'll also keep it at speed so no one else gets bored.
Yeah.
The nature of the panel is we're going to run some clips while we're talking, but the clips are going to be just for some visual stuff. We're going to keep the audio off, so it's not having to jump between voices and clips a whole lot.
Okay.
So if you do want to see any of these clips in full, you've probably already seen them. All these clips I yanked off YouTube, so these are like straight up the easy to find, like, I just want to watch rider kicks happen kind of clips.
I want to see explosions.
Yeah.
I'm here for the pretty
More sequences.
here for the awesome suits.
Garfield, what are you doing here?
He's on the panel.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Vice President.
At 7:30, go to the ballroom on the second floor.
I like to have a Maitland
Save me a
card and show
second
up, but he's
row
probably
aisle
going to do
seat.
the D thing anyway. So.
How loud am I? Oh, that's loud.
It's not live. Second floor.
Do you guys want us to use these, or should we just
What,
project?
D20 live, right?
Do it so the audio and the video's better.
It's better if we use these for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you sure?
For the sake of the video,
Are we
we will
rolling?
use the mics.
We're rolling.
So how do you get on the panel?
Submit it. We both.
Type in, please.
Okay, please.
Let's introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Gar from Radio Sentai Cast Ranger or Ultra Ranger. I've been a fan of Tokusatsu since high school, and if you're at the top fourth wall Q&A, I'm that guy that leaves during the Marvel after credit scene.
You bastard.
I'm okay sharing a panel with him because this way we have full representation of many demographics here.
And he's just better.
People who stay during the credits and people who leave. Hi, I'm Chris. I run Vangelus.ca, Vangelus Central on YouTube. I've been into Tokusatsu since Ryuki was on the air, Kamen Rider Ryuki. I started because I went to Suspect Video. I was visiting my brother who lived in Toronto, went to Suspect Video, and they had, for rent, a yellow text fan sub of Kamen Rider Zedo. And I watched it because I was like quietly watching Power Rangers when no one was looking, going like, "No, stuff's pretty cool," but you know, I was like, I don't know what Power Rangers are. And then I watched Zedo, and I was like, "This is really friggin' awesome." And then I was like, "Whatever, I'm gonna start watching Ryuki and Hurricaneger and Raw." This is pre the fan sub era online. And then I was there when TV Nihon and their IRC was like, "We're gonna fan sub Fies," and IRC was weird back then.
Decker Ranger.
Yeah, which I actually still haven't finished watching.
And it's only been like, what, 12 years?
Yeah. So this panel is Tokusatsu Touchstone. For those who are wondering, the way this panel happened is I submitted a panel and he submitted a panel, and then we got an email saying, you both submitted basically an identical panel. Are you okay to work
Yes,
together?
the panel of Tokusatsu.
Yeah.
Taco Satsu.
And I was like,
It says Tokusatsu 7. Oh, it was an A.
and I was like, I got flour wheat tortillas.
So-
He's got the cheese.
So octopus effects?
Yes.
Takoyaki?
And here we are. So we're gonna just go through little bits and pieces of Tokusatsu. Since a lot of you guys know about it, we'll also maybe at least mention like some of the current stuff as well. It's fresh in my mind because I haven't actually sat down to watch Super Sentai in a while because I have to be in a certain mood for it. And the last couple of years, for reasons I just haven't been. And then the other day I was just like, these candy toys look good. I'm gonna turn on this Lupin Ranger versus Pac Ranger. And I watched the first episode and like syrup of style just like dripped into my mouth, and I was like, this is delicious.
Creativity.
Yeah, it's jazz music and sugar.
That cowboy bebop.
I wouldn't blame you for skipping Kokuger considering the train dicks thing, but yeah, you know.
Tokyo Bono!
Don't worry, we got brand new train dicks this season.
Oh,
Train dicks are good stuff.
Yes,
Oh no!
Except one goes like out up here.
Train ain't
and the
got
other
no
one goes
brakes.
Out like
So
this.
does that make it a Futanari, or does that make it a what?
It makes
I
him a
haven't seen Kokuger,
Robinari.
I didn't know about
haven't
that.
seen
I don't know the etymology of the
Well, I
word.
have not seen
That's why we started our podcast, is because of Tokyo. We call it Bonero.
If you guys are curious, especially for those who need to
I have not
get the
seen X and
primer,
Megazord yet, so I'm a little behind. Like,
Oh.
2 X is behind.
they form like an X, and the X stands up.
And it also does a cartwheel to change its form.
Yeah, it's
That's the only cool part of
it's a
it.
Heliplex robot. if you see the final form, it's like
That's
Flex
Cougar.
Prime. It's like, hey, we took all the toys and stuck them together.
It's a
and left.
robot made of train sex.
Okay.
This is the one where there's a nightstick sticking sideways off the ankle that I'm really into.
Oh,
the Sixth Raider just had
Good
a really
Cool
cool
Kaiser?
just on it.
Yeah,
The
Good
dumbest
Cool
name
Kaiser.
ever. We call it Clusterfuck Kaiser.
Great, you got one Battle Fever change opening before Shell Factory even releases it. Great.
But the nature of all this Super Sentai
Wow,
stuff.
we're going way back.
Oh, the
This starts
original
off with
Megazord.
the. This isn't the original Sentai, but I guess this is the original Super
It-
Sentai.
Close enough.
Yeah, they went for
Actually, I watched
Genji
it
and
this
they
year.
resisted.
Oh, Battle Fever?
Yeah, all of Battle Fever. It was okay.
Yesterday?
No, yes.
Okay.
All of it.
You just turn it on at 5 times speed and just like put it right in your eyes.
But, like, after
I can
watching
read
it,
that
I'm like,
fast.
Now I realize why KGO was so popular.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
He was freaking jacked.
Well, the nature of the show was Marvel wanted to get in with Toei, and so they launched this show, which was this international task force of people who bump into streetlights, and they all are named after a country, and the idea was one of them would be Captain America. And it'd be kind of like a version of the Avengers. While the show was being made, they were also getting that Spider-Man show going that most people have seen by now in clips or something. Oddly enough, Spider-Man in this show are the ones that debuted the giant robots. Yeah, the Leopardon and the Battle Fever Robo.
In which he just showed up in the Marvel Comics again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then he was bitched by Moreland in 2 seconds. I hate that comic.
But then they were like, hey, he's not dead. And I was like, all right, someday, some author who knows cool stuff will
and he's a
bring him
dance
back.
slot.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll make him into a movie.
But yeah, it's Super Sentai, it's basically,
Apparently he was.
most
supposed to be
people
in
see it as
Ready
this
Player
is
One.
Japanese Power Rangers. This is where Power Rangers got its footage from. It was not the first of these that was imported as Power Rangers. It was,
17 years later.
yeah, it was a little while.
Are you showing the Dynaman parody?
I do not have that available. This is my generic footage I like to run because it's got lots of colors. This was an anniversary thing where they just had like a ton, like every team up to this point have a big fight scene for a movie. It looked
With a
really
bunch
good.
Because
of
apparently
dead
for
soldiers,
Japan,
mind you.
it's like, if you want to celebrate something, you gotta get everyone.
Yeah, Megaforce didn't get that.
Because this is movie footage,
You mean
not
Megazord?
Tensou Sentai
Yeah.
Ghost Ager footage.
Crap.
Saban couldn't get the rights to the movie rights.
Even though they still did the Legend War, which is hilarious.
And even
Yeah.
they still got
They
that.
used
watched an
footage
episode.
from episode 1 of Ghost
I
Ager.
watched that one episode on Netflix. The best part is, so this is pre this series. This is like technically the event that leads to this big crossover anniversary series. The Power Rangers version, they beat the big bad guy, and then they like look at a hill, and a bunch of mooks are running over the hill, and they're like, we gotta fight them too, and then this happens, and it's like, so there's 0 stakes to this fight.
Alright guys, time to clean up the mess.
All the speaking villains are dead by this point.
Yeah, so it's like, why don't we use our Megazord?
Yeah.
You know, the one that we still have.
Stomp on it.
But your usual Super Sentai experience is going to be 3 to 5, sometimes 6 or 7, sometimes 10,
12.
12 heroes in various different colors.
You want 50th team has to be 20.
Yeah. And there's a very sort of set structure to a lot of these shows in the very top level approach where you'll have an intro episode, they'll show some new toys, eventually to have episode arcs that will be the focus episode on this ranger, Super Sentai is like, at the end of the day, it is still stylish, it's still full of like really cool stuff. It is also the quintessential toy commercial tokusatsu. It's brightly colored, it's fairly straightforward, it usually doesn't get too complicated. If you watch a lot of it in a row, you start seeing very odd patterns that emerge from
Like you,
series to series.
like you see the smart hero, or the idiot red, the cool blue,
Yo,
or
Lucky.
the loner ranger.
Looking at you, Mega Ranger.
Or there's the generic Six Ranger trope that I've noticed. They'll show up, transform, beat all the mooks, and then the team will show up, be like, hey, you're really cool, and then they'll just walk off, and then the sunset will just be there.
Yeah.
Okay, apparently it's afternoon, guys. Let's go home.
Like
Actually,
Super
that actually happened
Sentai.
in Time Ranger. I think that trope actually really kicked off. It was in Time Ranger when they actually, because that was actually set in the evening when Time
Yeah.
Fire. So he showed up later than most other Sixth Rangers, and he just
When
kind
did
of
he show up?
he showed up in episode 29 when typically Sixth Rangers show up in episode 18.
You see, this is how scientific the science of Super Sentai
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
It's like there are literal episode numbers where it is expected certain like 1 or 2 or 3 events will happen.
Yeah.
Like by episode 5, that's when like the team finally gets the
22?
gist of it.
Yeah, and
Because like episode 2 is like when one of the Rangers is like, oh, I don't want to be a part of this. Screw that. I'm out of here.
And depending if it's a cool blue or like a
Assassin
rebellious Black Ranger, or Assassin Green Ranger.
Looking at you, Zuo Elephant.
But like that also is why Super Sentai is one of the easiest ones to fatigue on a little bit, because especially if you just like mainline Super Sentai, like multiple series in 1 year, it's not gonna happen to everyone, but it is one where like if you ever go like, oh my god, I kind of know.
Yes.
Like,
This is gonna be a long show.
Like it's one where you can, it's because they're also 50 episode blocks, give or take.
Yeah.
It's an easy one to take a year off from and then kind of come back to.
That into the key
And
Ranger.
Go Ranger had like 80 episodes.
Honestly,
Yeah.
Go Ranger had 84.
Oh,
honestly,
84, sorry.
Lupin Ranger's the first one I've really been following like weekly for a few years now because I just got so sick and
Me too.
tired of the idiot Red.
I didn't
For the
like.
first time in ages,
Yeah, too.
Red's not an idiot.
Neither red.
Well, I didn't even mind like any of the tropes, but I just ran into this thing of like, I was only
just the same
seeing the
thing.
structure, and I wasn't
It's the
able
same
to.
thing over and over.
Yeah, and like I couldn't see past the structure, and I was like, I know I'll be fine if I take a year or two off, and then I jump into Lupin Pat, and it's like, this is great. Like
It's
I'm
all
right
fresh.
back in.
It
Yeah.
feels fresh.
I'm still sad there's no ending theme anymore, though.
Yeah.
Well, it's either that
And
or
dance in our
just one
minds.
opening. Actually,
Yeah.
if I can actually say something, my only problem with Lupin Ranger versus Pat Ranger is
It's basically a Lupin Ranger show.
no, it's not that. It's just
You're not wrong.
if you watch 20 episodes in a row, things just are really stale because it's kind of like the same formula except it'll be reversed. It'll be like it's a Lupin Ranger focus episode and the Pat Rangers will get a quick cameo, or it's a Pat Ranger focus episode with a Lupin Ranger cameo. It's like
Yeah.
at least with the 6th Ranger, it changes things up a bit, and then
Yeah,
you get like the stronger generals that show up, then the final mech, and then you just start to wrap everything up with Endgame.
That's just
Usually
why-
with like one of your generic villains wanting to get revenge or
Yeah.
something, or try to take over.
That's why I am genuinely curious. I'm just watching it in 3 episode shots. Like also, you'll notice a lot of people talk about their tokusatsu like some kind of medication, where it's like, yeah, I like to take it weekly. I like to take like a 3 episode shot every 2 days or
Yeah.
so.
When you,
But
when you do a weekly podcast, you have no choice.
The good ones like Go
You're
Ranger,
welcome.
You
Yeah.
can't watch it. Even with the good ones, you can only like maybe do 5 or 6 and then you're done.
and it's like really any good show. Eventually, you do run into this fatigue wall. Like even a show I love, if I get like 11 episodes in a row, I realize I don't remember what happened for the last 3 episodes. I just remember like moments that I probably saw on YouTube at some point earlier.
I usually do 5 episodes a day if I can. Like if I'm marathoning a show, 5 episodes a day.
That's the 100-minute daily is what we call in the business.
Oh, well now I know.
Yeah, no one actually.
I can see what you were saying with Lupin though, because actually I watched a good chunk of it when I was sitting on a plane going to Japan
Whoa.
last month.
Wow.
And
Rub it in.
I basically, I brought back the Morpher. I don't have it with me. They're cheap as dirt over there. You can't. Like what?
So is everything when you don't have to pay shipping and markup
Yes, I
and
know.
Also, a lot of Sentai or a lot of Toku toys actually. When you hit the end of the series, I was there for the end of one series. I forgot what year. It was in 08, I think. I was there for the tail end of whatever that was.
Yeah, I think it would be 08, so...
Go Andra.
Yeah, it would be Go Andra. I was going to say Gekko.
Yeah,
It's like, no,
and
it's Go
whatever
Andra.
aired along Kiva back when we could track rider shows by year.
Yeah, well, whatever the big toy was on dead clearance, like 80% off, and then was gone. And I asked someone, I think it was Iga Double, I asked about it, and he was like, yeah, what happens is when a Toei series hits the end of the show, they'll have like a week of like crash sales, and anything that doesn't sell is then put in a landfill. So there's
Like
like
a legit landfill?
yeah, like there's like
Oh,
probably
no.
a small microcontinent made entirely out of revolver mammoths from Hurricane.
Get it? Because that didn't sell over here in Ninja Storm.
Well, it was also the big toy at the end,
Yeah.
right? So they were like, all we need to do is sell actually a couple hundred of these, then we'll put them to 80% off, and if they don't sell, we need the space, landfill.
Wait, hang on. Up an updated version. Lion Fortress Megazord from Ninja Storm.
There you go.
I wonder what they're actually going to do with that with the Lupin stuff, because interestingly, the mech, the Zord, is not a separate thing with the Lupin toys.
Well, it is and it isn't.
It's the bits that you put on the Morpher.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Good Striker.
And then you just get Good Striker,
You can
which by
literally
the way
build your own
is
Megazord.
freaking expensive. Good Striker costs more than the goddamn Morpher.
It's because all the electronics in it,
Yeah.
I think.
I am
Like,
hyped
I
for
think-
Victory Striker
Actually, it's 'cause he's
or
not
Jackpot
saying
Striker.
All the
I got
electronics
both.
are in the Morpher. The
Doesn't Good
Literally
Striker
when I
have
ordered
stuff?
Yeah,
I-
just
I-
Good
Good,
Striker
Good
has
Striker,
next day
Good Striker has
showed up on the
is
site.
electronic, but the dial fighters and VS vehicles do not.
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
They just click
and you
things in the
You
changer.
just do that, and then they equip it in the changer, but they're also the Megazord bits.
Yeah, yeah.
Just connect
So,
them
so
to
you're
Good Striker.
basically paying for Good Striker and then the additional whatever the dial
Come on.
fighters are, or VS vehicles.
Just VS
Yeah.
vehicles.
And all of that,
all
I
these
believe,
prices end up together.
as far as Americanization on it, I think you're going to be waiting till probably 2020.
Because they're going back
Well, I
and
mean,
adapting
yeah,
Go
they're doing
Buster.
Go Buster.
Yeah,
Well,
and there's no telling that Hasbro's even going to follow the pattern necessarily, because one of the
two seasons.
Yeah,
or, yeah, two
Well, wasn't that
Seasons they
Morphers,
skip.
Super Beast Morphers.
Well,
wasn't
what I
that
heard
a
is that,
Nickelodeon
like-
thing?
Like
well, also-
Nickelodeon Power Rangers only have a three more year contract.
I don't know any of
That
the
was a
contract stuff.
Nickelodeon thing, I think, the splitting the
Yeah,
seasons.
they said because
There's 20 episodes a
You're not
season.
SpongeBob.
The
you don't
main
get
main
more
thing I heard is
seasons
that
per
the
season.
Go Buster suits, for the most part, actually were reconstructed by Hasbro.
Hasbro said that at San Diego Comic Con this year. All
Yeah.
the suits from Go Busters had to be reconstructed from scratch.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's been
How many years?
a
Six-
long
6
time.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that sets a really cool precedent where you no longer really look at what's the current Sentai and how will it come over here, because it's like the first one that this new production system is doing, they technically just rebuilt all the suits.
Oh yeah.
Giant middle
It
finger
also-
to.
Eat your heart out,
It
Savon.
also kind of.
Mister gets a Green Ranger shield as a cloth instead of an actual.
It
Yeah,
also
that is
kind
so.
of-
Yeah, or like the weird silver
Well,
things.
maybe
Oh,
I actually get to see
something
the other
interesting,
Rangers,
because it means
like the
that
Hippo Ranger
Hasbro-
and the.
maybe for the first time in the franchise, is not going to be a massive cheap ass about things.
No.
Well,
Maybe-
the thing
maybe
with
we'll
the
get good
Green Ranger
mechs.
shield was the Green Ranger actually surprised them by shot because they were going through stock footage and they're like, "Oh shit, there's a 6th Ranger,
Fog.
guys, we need some help."
What show?
Mighty Morphin.
You need, to go,
Yeah.
you need to go give us new footage and get the old suits back and redo new
We
footage.
don't have time to mail them.
Yeah.
Well, they did mail the main suit. I think I think up to $10. I'm willing to bet because they actually it was confirmed that they did get all the suits from the original Zhu Ranger when they got them over. But then they looked at the mail and went, "Where's the shield?" They must because the cuffs clearly look like they're the cuffs from the original Zhu Ranger, but the shield obviously is not. So it's like they look at it and go, "Where's the shield? Where's the shield? Did
Yeah.
you bring the shield? No, we didn't bring the shield."
Oh, shield! I thought you said shipping.
No, the overshield. No, they
The
forgot- they
shield,
forgot to
I
ship-
was
but
talking
they forgot
about
to ship the overshield.
the crappy
They probably-
shield from the footage. You can tell
You know
in some
how we
footage
get
it's
this little
not
cloth
the
thing
actual
instead of the-
cloth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That one's
they
made of
probably-
metal,
they looked
that
at it
one's
and
made of
went,
rubber.
"Oh crap, we forgot to send them the overshield. Whoops!" So they had to make the overshield last minute.
And
I
you
think
guys are
that-
using stock footage
But
anyways.
if they're just
Yeah, but the stock
I,
footage
I
falls
think
apart
that to
when
the
you
question of
realize
like
it's a
what the
different
whole
shield.
toy side of it's going to look like I got this whole prediction in my mind of I think in 2019 2020 it's going to be a lot of stuff that looks like the current Star Wars 5 points of articulation stuff for figures and a lot of robot stuff that looks a lot like the current Transformers RID
So
specifically.
So we're gonna
No,
get
I
the
mean-
new. Wait, you said red.
Yeah, specifically, it's not going to look like
Oh.
Generations, because first they're going to make solid kid toys, and then probably 2020, 2021, they're going to start doing the Black Series Marvel Legends treatment. Because anything that they're going to make for that is probably, especially with the robots, will fall into the 2-year development cycle. So if they're working on it now, it's coming out 2 years from now.
Yeah, they want to
Has-
just import the damn bits.
Because those belong to Bandai.
Hasbro has said that they do intend on making a collector's line.
Yeah, they said that right away. I just think it's going to be
It's
2
just
to
gonna
3
be
years
a
from
lot.
now.
Like probably once Beast Morphers is over, then they're gonna show like some actual
Yeah,
product.
like I don't think it's even realistic to think they're going to show like collector stuff next year or the year
No.
after. Maybe blueprints the year
Well,
after. But-
this is a company that A has never done Power Rangers, and B has, to my knowledge, never really done any sort of like adaptation of this sort.
They did
Transformers.
Beyblade as well.
They did Beyblade?
That's more
Oh, yeah.
dubbing.
Wow.
Took it
Yeah.
from Takara.
No, but they get
Well, I
the
guess they sold the toys, but I didn't know they made the
But
show.
I mean in
Well,
terms of like
I don't
TV
know if
show.
they made the
Yeah,
show.
they
Well-
like I think they had a hand in the dubbing of some properties of theirs.
But dubbing and doing what Power Rangers does
Yeah.
is a very different thing.
And they have had a hand in producing animation. It's live action. I'm not necessarily sure they've done a lot of work in.
Except in the movies.
The crazy
Yeah.
part is that they're taking on this new venture and they're starting it with probably the most difficult to adapt Sentai in recent history.
It's a pretty American-friendly one, though, because it's
Not
like,
really.
we're in a tech megacity, there's
Well,
energy
Guitar
stuff.
said how much
The
so.
morph sequence, I think he's referring to. He's
It's-
referring to the morph sequence.
No, I'm talking about the stock footage because
Every 5 minutes.
basically,
Oh, well, that's why they
every 5
reconstruct
minutes
the
they
suits
take off their
then.
No,
helmets.
it's not
Yeah.
like this. It's like this.
And also every 5
zoom in.
And also every
Zoom
2
out.
minutes, Enter and Escape show up, and they're not rubber-suited monsters.
I mean, they're just.
By
I
person.
think they're just going to make a lot of fresh footage. Like, to me, recreating the suits from scratch is indicative of doing a whole new production.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like,
Will Power Rangers, for the first time in its history, not be shackled by a stupidly tiny budget?
Probably.
It's
Like,
like,
they made a big thing. They've stated literally, like, we see a lot more potential in this property than what has been used so far. So to me, it's just they're seeing it as a way to produce, like, a live action experience.
Hasbro the Power Rangers right now is like your high school counselor who's like, you're filled with so much potential, where your parents like, oh no, you gotta go do this.
Yeah, and Hasbro has the money to be able to act on an impulse.
So
Of, like, we want to
does
produce
Disney and
something.
Saban. They were just cheap
Well,
about it.
what I
Yeah,
mean
but
is they don't,
Disney
they don't
just
have the
didn't care.
impulse, is what I mean.
Disney was asshole about
And
it.
Saban
Yeah,
just-
Hasbro
I mean, hey,
actually
RPM
wants
was
the
great.
property.
Oh, no,
Disney
yeah, that was
doesn't
up in their
want
lap
this
for a
property.
Well,
It's the
it's
difference.
interesting because Hasbro, I think they're trying to rebuild, reconstruct because
It's
they're
funny though
moving
because
in
the
Star
reason
Wars,
Fox
speaking
took
of
in
Star Wars,
Power Rangers because
just
every other
like-
studio thought it was the worst
So,
thing
like,
ever.
I don't really think it tanked.
no, it went rock bottom. There are entire landfills of nothing but Star Wars toys.
Okay, what is
There have
with this in
been
landfills?
Because that's what happens to
I thought
toys.
tokus are like quarries.
Toys are a product of
Landfills
mass
in the
production
quarries.
that takes advantage of underpaid workers, uses a whole lot of oil to create plastic that for the most part goes into landfills to continue killing the earth, which is the reality of toy collecting that I love to dump on
No,
people.
you know what? That's the next Sentai. The Sentai that's trying to defeat these toy companies from polluting the earth.
Yeah.
That would actually be fun. Well,
Why don't you take those toys
We already
and
have
turn
two
them into
Sentai
fuel?
Just
Do
go
we need
anime
to actually
stack.
hit any other
Yeah.
stuff, or do you want to just keep this on Sentai? Because we're also a third of the way through.
So
At least for
let's go
timing.
to Kamen Rider first.
Yeah, you want to go to talk about Kamen Rider?
Yeah, I'll go to the prompts. So Kamen Rider is the other major toku a lot of people talk about. It's Toei's like left hand, whereas Sentai's its right hand. And it's usually more of the case
Oh, I
of a
was sorry it
series
was the other way.
where you've got like one dude who is fighting a bunch of monsters. That's what it says in the book. A lot of Kamen Rider right now says, yes, there is one dude and his 3 friends, and there are 4 other friends that are in the movie, and the other 5 guys who are in the movie after the series is done. But ostensibly, Kamen Rider's a lot more about, if not solo heroes, at least heroes who do not work as a unit necessarily. And every Kamen Rider series, even in a very subtle way, tends to follow, there's one baseline, whereas Sentai is about teamwork, Kamen Rider is about you've been turned into a monster and you're using what the monsters use to fight them, more or less. So it often also ends up being the slightly darker of the two.
Hey, I remember this. This is from Masked Rider.
Yeah, this is a classic style production called Masked Rider.
Is that MF and Doras?
Remember that really terrible voice actor from like the Power Rangers?
But Kamen
crossover?
Rider is usually the one that a lot of people who want to espouse about the darkness of Japanese toku will show clips of first, because it's a lot more convenient.
It's still a kid.
Yeah,
It's still a kid show.
Like this was, well, this was made during the 90s when there was no Kamen Rider on television.
Like usually if someone, like for instance, if someone comes up to you about Tokusatsu and they're like, you know how dark Toku is? And they show you like a bunch of clips, there's a good chance they're just showing you a bunch of very carefully selected Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider is just the same toy commercial that Sentai is. It's just that it is aimed, instead of being aimed at like 4 to 8 year olds, it's
Like
aimed at like 8
preteens?
to 12 year olds, with a bent that covers some teenagers and the demographic of housewives, at least back in the Ryuki days, which is why they hire such attractive boys
That Shinji.
to play Kamen Riders. Yeah. No, specifically Ryuki, they had such a big cast of attractive men because they were trying to act upon the housewife demographic.
You wouldn't believe how many people that like idols from Japan are actually getting
Stop
into
motion right
Sentai
there.
because Luke and Yellow is an idol.
Like your sister.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're right. Like, what was it? Akiba 48 popped up, and they had 2 members who were
Akiba 48.
AKB 48.
Yeah, AKB 48 appeared in Ultraman Saga.
That too?
Yep.
Yeah.
I like Ultraman.
We're gonna hit some Ultra.
It's true, he does.
Stream a bunch of it on
I am
Saturday.
assuming a lot of you guys are already down with the rider. The main thing to say is there's a new show coming up, and if you've never seen it, it's an anniversary show.
It's Time
happening
Force, but with riders.
Well,
happening for the second time in 10 years.
Let's hope they don't
show a whole lot of older stuff.
Let's hope they don't pull a decade and spoil the last 10 years with awkwardly same but different kit bashes.
Same
let's just
continuity, so shit.
Let's just assume that
They-
they'll
they
spoil
sort
it,
of
that if it's
technically
good,
don't
it's
make-
even more fun.
I mean, the suit looks good so far.
Yeah,
Technic's gonna show up. And
it's a good place to start. Apparently, when they do these anniversary shows, personally, I felt like it's kind of just showing you the highlight reel. When people say you should start with Decade, I'm like, you can just watch YouTube clips.
The thing is, everyone always says start with Decade because it like gives you a sampling of the shows, but I tend to strongly disagree because it tends to spoil some major plot points from the older shows.
So start with Double.
It's like YouTube clips. It's like, here, just look at a bunch of a show reel of suits that we have, and it's like, well, yeah, but you're not showing the spirit of the director of each show. You're not really getting
You're
across
just
the
showing
vibe.
hardcore vitamins.
Yeah, it's like suits.
And the thing about Decade
Alright.
is that all the plots, like he's like, honestly, another reason not to watch Decade is first, even though Decade is a cool character in his own right, his plot literally, it's not even.
It doesn't even finish.
Well, no, A, but the B, there's complete. They're all.
Also gonna throw up some
they're
colorful
fundamentally
riders just for
retellings.
comparison here.
They're fundamentally retellings of the original
throw in
nine, and
Megamax.
they're not going to make any sense because you haven't watched the originals.
No.
So if you
Forze!
haven't-
Yeah, well, let's bop to the. I like this director a lot.
I'm really
I love
hoping
these
that the
shots.
villains of Zeo will be Foundation X to not only close off this sort of hidden villain arc they've been pulling for the last 10 years, but also so the show becomes Zo-O versus X.
Are you working for Bandai?
I have made so many accurate predictions on Cast Ranger that I'm starting to genuinely wonder.
I can prove that.
Okay, well, spoilers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spoilers.
So, great. All right. Zero's over. Bye.
These are probably some of my favorite shots in any of the movies.
Well, what I wanted to highlight with this too is that of late there have been a lot more directors coming up in Kamen Rider who have a lot of really powerful vision. This director, Koichi Sakamoto, is still one of my favorites. I say unfortunately because I was hoping someone else would hit me as strongly as this guy, but as you can see from the way he shoots his action, he does not just point the camera and wait for the effects to happen. He is designing his shots. He's got a certain Shaw Brothers element to his style with wire food things, and he structures his shots to take advantage of form changes, of effects. He makes the action feel friggin' cool without me, the viewer, coming up with reasons why it's cool, which I realized I did a lot with older Toku that I was watching.
This is why I wanted to team up with this guy.
It's also interesting because
and I love the shoot.
I know, it's
they
fake.
have much heavier suits than Sentai Rangers, so they have to very carefully coordinate their cinematography to acknowledge the fact that they're not in spandex. If they're in spandex, they can do flips. They can lead just they can lead the
Well, they are in spandex, but it's like spandex then like
armor. And
Yeah.
Just in general, his approach to Rider and to form changes especially, his approach to Tokusatsu is one that also does not kind of cover his nose a little bit when he's like, look at these suits we're using. Like, he's just like, no, this is friggin' awesome. I love that this guy's gonna have big scissors on his hands. He's gonna have a Gatling gun on his knee. He's a great director to watch. Like the movies he works on, if you want to show Tokusatsu to someone and you know that they're into the action side of it, you can almost tell them, like, listen, kind of ignore some of the plot points that may sound like they're an epilogue to some TV show, and let's just check out how this guy shoots his Toku, and it's really solid stuff. This is personally what I would tell people to look at if they want to look at Tokusatsu, is I pick out usually the Kamen Rider Double movie because its story is very self-contained, and it gives a summary of what the series is at the start, very succinctly.
Power Rangers, but
Yeah, like the double movie literally opens with like, the city has these Gaia memories in it. This is what they are. Here's the two guys who fight using them, and it's like a 30-second summary that tells you everything you need to know. But yeah, this is also showing Kamen Rider can be colorful. Kamen Rider can be even goofy because there are riders from the 1970s.
Isn't one of them called like Fruity something or whatever?
Oh,
yeah, there's like Gaim. And the thing about Rider that's also fun is a lot of the good series get given kind of weird visuals to work with, and they get creatives on them who take these visuals, like, again, they take them seriously for the sake of what they want to deliver. Sakamoto delivering a Gaim fight scene in another movie that I had kicking around on here.
Kamen Rider Touchstone?
Yeah, the Pac-Man one. Dr.
Heisei Generation.
Yeah, in Dr. Pac-Man, like he does a couple Gaim fight scenes where all these guys have armor that is basically giant mechanical fruit things that transform onto them.
Oh.
But he makes them look badass because Sakamoto loves this genre very clearly.
That basically describes Gaim.
Yeah.
Koichi, like he did it so much for American Power Rangers. I think it's like why, and it's like even though us kids were watching Digimon, people still watched Power Rangers that time because Koichi was one of the main guys behind like Lost Galaxy, Lightspeed, Time Force.
Yeah, and like the unmorphed fight scenes.
Like he loved it so much he went to South Korea to make a 12-part miniseries for Kyoranger.
Yep.
Yeah.
that was a thing.
Kyoranger Brave.
So like when I say it's unfortunate that he's still kind of the top of the heap for me, it's only because he's been the top of the heap since like 2010. And by this point I wanted to see more interesting directors. And we have them now. I couldn't get the clip ready because I tried to use the hotel internet to grab it. But the final episode of Kamen Rider Exade is what I would show. There's a big fight scene at the end. It's this video game themed rider show. There's a huge fight scene in the final episode which is so creatively put together, so well storyboarded, and it's not Sakamoto. It's another director who loves what he's working with and creates this interplay between gimmicks, between riders, between power sets, and it comes off like this really cool like 1.5 minute fight scene that is I love it because it's not Sakamoto as well.
Is it that scene at night that's alluded to in the opening?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the opening song starts playing, everyone looks like they're about to kick someone's ass, and they do.
Yeah, that's the thing with Kamen Rider since probably like Drive or
yeah, he definitely
drives.
Yeah, a lot of the main villains tend to be evil dads who keep winning, and you just hate them, and then they finally get kicked in the jaw, and you're like, yeah.
Well, there's that. But like in the opening, there will be like just a few second clip, which will end up in the finale, some way or another.
And I love that. I love throwback stuff, and especially when it's the op that plays on the throwback. I'm just like, you hit my switch. You like activated my happy place.
It's like a brilliant payoff where it's like you've waited the whole show with this build up, and here's like this is where it all pays off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fantastic. And
what's good about this is that also when you talk about cinematography is that it actually gets you invested because the fight is the story. A lot of the story in action scenes is through. It's not how much a rider can bulldoze through somebody, which we know they can.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what is your threat level? Well, you can show your threat level because the cinematography actually is angling it that you can feel the claustrophobia, the threat level.
And the part where he throws his cape like a giant boomerang.
Yeah.
Another you can look at other Toku movies where villains do a thing like that, and it looks corny as hell, and you don't care. You're just like, he waved his arm and the CG came off of him and went at them and came back on him. But like Sakamoto, even with CG, he's like, well, we'll get camera shaken, we'll push on the CG element, we'll make it live.
And a lot of chunk of this is live action here, and you can it's like you can feel it's not just the shaky cam, but like look how close he is to the actors.
Or even this shot here, like this guy's it's totally he's CG falling off the thing, but like even that shot, he goes between the engine. It's not just a static shot of a little CG man falling off of a space shuttle. There's a CG fight at the end of this that also speaks to a lot of like Sakamoto. Like obviously these scenes are really cool as well.
But the classic riders.
Yeah, like this whole shot here, like this is all CG, but also he storyboards this, so it's like Forze with 2 rockets in his arms and running up a shuttle to punch a dude. And like it may be a bit more of an anime sense. There's still cool stuff going on here. Mixed in with some live action. Not relying on the CG even for these close-ups. Sakamoto, I can do a whole panel about him. Maybe I should spit that. But
ideas.
We're hitting the halfway point, so we should bop over to the Man of Ultra,
the warrior from light.
Who I was going to come to this panel to say the best part about Ultraman is you can check it out on Crunchyroll, and you still can.
Except for Ultraman Rube.
Yeah, the new Ultraman series.
Not gonna let go of that.
The story of this is crazy. Ultraman, Tsuburaya made a deal with Crunchyroll to simulcast Ultraman and put a bunch of old Ultraman on their service. As far as I know, it's still there.
Yes.
But the new Ultraman series began to air. Crunchyroll do not have the rights to simulcast it. Tsuburaya is putting it on YouTube.
And then they region blocked it after episode 1.
Yeah, and also on YouTube, they had the option for users to submit closed captions. Someone made subs for this official YouTube upload. Tsuburaya then went like, region lock, erase closed captions. And it's like, almost adversarial. So when I saw someone fan-subbing Rube, I was like, of course someone is. You basically challenged the entire fan sub community.
Yeah. Yes.
To be honest, most Japanese companies are assholes pretty much. They don't care about copyright or phrase. They just like
Well, I mean,
stomp
yeah,
on you.
partner with
At least with
Crunchyroll, right?
Too much.
Like it speaks to me differently when the simulcast is happening. I'm like, Tsuburaya clearly, and also like the movie was done in tandem with Warner Brothers. Like
Yep.
they seem like ready to push their property stateside. The simulcast. That's why with Rube, I just find it so bewildering that they simulcast what 2 Ultraman series or 1?
3.
3 Ultraman
Yeah,
series.
Ultraman X, Orb, and Jeed.
The simulcast?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought just Jeed did.
Nope.
So they simulcast for 3 years,
And
they
then-
put older Ultraman on the service,
And-
and then
But the weirdest thing of all, they won't give us a reason.
yeah.
So,
But like we contacted them, like me and my like a few of our friends who like Ultraman, we demanded Crunchyroll to give us an explanation, and they just ghosted us.
So Crunchyroll hasn't even been able to say.
Yeah,
There must be something
I mean,
screwed up that happened.
I have a feeling they're
I-
probably making a bigger deal.
Yeah.
The weird part is we know.
Honestly, I don't think
We,
it's Crunchyroll.
we know that they know that there's some sort of Western interest in Toku in general because Premium Bandai has been talking about opening up like a Western storefront of some sort.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, like,
Gundam
you know,
and stuff.
Oh, God.
there's also the Super Sentai DVD releases that Shout Factory's been doing,
Yeah.
which are fantastic.
Shout out,
on
yeah.
top
I
of that,
actually
like, look what
seen
Shout Factory's been pumping.
Jew Ranger, and I'm on
every-
Giga Man right now.
This year
Yeah.
alone, there's been
So
3
I'm
Sentais
really excited when they
translated.
go.
There's a lot
They're
of-
getting Jet Man on there too now.
Yeah, there's
They're
a
going
lot
back
of
to
just like
Giant.
synergy. There's a lot of
Five
like
timers.
I guess you call it reaching across the
This is
table going
2018,
on.
all
And
2018.
so this Rube thing, I'm like, it can't just be they don't want it shown because they
Oh yeah, Jetman's
Clearly
already-
they want to
come out-
show it,
they
so
come
there-
out- Jetman's
there
already-
must be something.
Why would they
in the works.
refuse an audience?
Yeah, there must be something in the works. I wouldn't be surprised if, like,
Five
halfway
Sentais in a
through
year.
Rube, Crunchyroll goes like, "Hey, we sorted it out, and the first half is up for streaming right now, and we're simulcasting."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you were saying, I wouldn't be surprised if it is just they're trying to work out a better deal.
Well, because Super just won back the U.S. rights for the first 6 Ultraman series
Yeah.
from like 66 to 74, 6 seasons. Do the math.
Why don't we give a basic overview of what Ultraman is
So-
to the uninitiated?
Ultraman is a franchise that started way back in 1966 by Eiji Tsuburaya, the creator of Godzilla.
That's as old as the Batman show.
It is.
Yes.
I know.
In which
They all look like this is the one thing.
That's why I can't tell any of them apart.
It was like the reboot.
If you see dudes with weird kind of fish-looking heads and big eyes, they are probably Ultraman.
see they get it.
Ultramen are based on, they look like fish, and Kamen Rider are like bugs.
Yeah. But Ultramen, because they are coming from the company that did Godzilla, they are typically, and obviously there's a lot of differences now, but the baseline of Ultraman is a really lithe, nimble martial artist alien is going to fight a Godzilla. So it's going to be a little dude cartwheeling around and wrestling with a big rubber monster.
For
like,
3 minutes.
Yeah,
It's
for
like slice and
3
a half.
minutes plot-wise. And like Kaiju Big Battle is very like it's the closest analog to all the things we've talked about so far as the two having anything in common.
Common,
And this is
right.
also the closest thing to like the classic Kaiju Godzilla stuff because straight up they've used Godzilla suits recycled here and
Yeah,
there.
there was an episode of the original Ultraman where they used one of the original Godzilla suits.
Like an
Jiras?
iguana frill.
Yeah, and they put a iguana frill over him, and they called him Jiras.
Yeah, and then Ultraman, because
That was
Ultraman
the
also
funniest
fights
shit
around like
ever.
a jerk. He walked up to this thing, he ripped its frill off, and there's like a bloody ring around its neck, and then toroed it with its own frill.
That was hilarious and
Split it in
disturbing.
half.
Yeah, Ultraman can be rough because it's giant monsters. It almost feels like they're a bit more lackadaisical with like how far should we put this? So like, I don't know, have him cut the monster in half,
But-
literally.
But here's the thing about Ultraman that Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, all these other Tokusatsu franchises doesn't really explain continuity. Basically, in 2010, 2009, whenever the second Ultraman Zero movie showed up, it explained that almost every season from the Heisei era of Ultraman is in its own continuity.
Yeah, there's basically two
Multiverse.
prime Ultraman universes acknowledged with some crossover
It's
even.
starting in 2013 with Ultraman Ginga to the current show Ultraman Root. Each show has been in its own continuity. Thus, they don't have to worry about like, oh, what? Like, why don't they know about Ultraman? It's like
Yeah.
different continuity.
And the nice thing about Ultraman is the main continuity that goes back to the original series decades ago. It's based on the idea that all the Ultramen live on some planet a bajillion light years away. So whenever the question would be, oh, why aren't there more Ultramen on Earth? They have this out of like, well, they're in space doing things.
They're like the space sheriffs.
Yeah, they're off doing stuff that we
Like the
didn't
Green
make movies
Lantern.
about, but we have the series going on Earth. Why don't you check out Ultraman Taro?
Oh, Ultraman Taro.
Ultramen often tend to shoot lasers out of their forearms by doing this. They tend to make kind of weird noises.
They're what Staryu was based off.
They also have that. Some of them have a razor blade in their forehead to pull off and cut it in half.
They are called ice sluggers.
And then the other interesting thing about Ultraman that's worth mentioning is like the original Ultraman was a sort of sequel to Ultra Q, which I've seen cited as kind of the original Tokusatsu series.
Ultra Q was kind of like
it's like the Twilight Zone.
yeah, it's Twilight Zone, but for Japan. Ultraman was kind of their superhero show.
Yeah.
Because last time I checked, Moonlight Mask was the oldest Japanese superhero, 1954-ish.
Yeah. I just remember like there's this sort of little monster suit etymologies between Ultraman and Ultra Q.
Yeah, the original idea was to use Ultra Q monsters fight against Ultraman, but then they just decided to go all out on brand new kaijus, unless you're Godzilla.
Yeah. Well, you can have them wreck a Godzilla or two. There's like, what, 15 of those?
8.
Yeah.
After a while, they're like, no, you just use the same suit from the old movie.
I mean,
that one got blown up. Yeah, just keep using it.
It's 8 is less than I'm not even doubling it to say 15. It's so close to 15. It's probably 15 Godzillas.
Probably.
By the time I finish saying this sentence, there's probably 15 Godzillas. They breed.
They breed.
The one thing, by the way,
Like Matthew Broderick, they reproduce asexually.
the way that I structured this footage is I kind of focused a lot of this on guys in suits tokusatsu. I don't actually have anything really covering kaiju as a main, because I don't really have much knowledge in kaiju.
Ultraman's the closest thing that you can get to like heroes and kaijus.
Because obviously, like for the sake of the record, there is Godzilla, there is Gamera. Those are two huge properties with massive fandoms that are tokusatsu. They fall under this banner.
2016 movie.
It's kind of funny how a lot of those shows seem to be under the same idea. They could fit in a big multiverse if they wanted to do that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's fun just posing the figures like that.
I never imagined I'd say that the origins of Power Rangers exists in the same universe as Godzilla. That's kind of awesome.
Well, no, it's not really that, because two different companies altogether. It's more or less just the art style of it altogether.
Same idea.
By the way, we were talking about Koichi Sakamoto, a pretty good director. Did you know that he also did an Ultraman movie that was the first Ultraman thing I ever saw that I liked?
Yeah, this was the only Ultraman. This is the big jump on point for Ultraman, because in 2009 to 2012 there was an Ultraman named Ultraman Zero, who was the son of a very famous Ultraman named Ultra 7. Almost screwed up there.
This is terrible.
Basically, this is when you make a character and just god mod him.
Well, also what this did, and again, I do it out of love, but I hate that I keep crediting exactly one person with all these things. But what Sakamoto did in this movie is he kind of, to me, fixed Ultraman in that he showed the agile martial arts side of Ultraman that often gets lost when you have one of these suits wrestling with a Godzilla. Basically.
Yeah, because like the kaiju suits are usually like 80% of the time bigger than Ultraman, so it's hard for him to actually do some like cool fights. All they usually do sometimes is toss them.
And while this clip is showing just a bad guy Ultraman with a stick fighting a bunch of Ultramen, this film does have a huge scene at the end with an Ultraman fighting a bunch of Godzillas. I'm using my words. And
words.
What Sakamoto did is he figured out how to shoot those scenes with a lot of really good cuts to keep the action frenetic even when the monster suits are incapable of a lot of motion, just realistically.
And what's interesting is that people forget that Ultraman grows giant size most of the time whenever he transforms.
All the time.
You know, there's actually in Tiga there was one instance where he stayed at human size, which was really weird.
Also 7X.
7X, yeah. So it's very weird. So it's like you can't tell if they're giant sized here or if they're regular sized.
Yeah, I like to assume they're giant sized.
Their planet is just giant sized.
Because there's a part in this movie where dude human, that's his name,
Ray. Not Star Wars Ray.
He's on the planet and he's
But
like,
kinda.
oh, it's the land. Him and his crew are on the planet, like, oh, look, it's the land of light, and they're all shot to look this big.
Yeah, they're like the size of this coffee cup compared to us.
Yeah, my nice, wonderful branded coffee cup.
Oh, mantles are coming off.
Yeah, also
Those
Superman
are the
has a
Grand
cape.
Ultraman, the original 3.
Ultramen also have capes.
They're called mantles.
I like just calling them capes.
No capes.
You're both right.
I like. It's also like how I like to look at Super Sentai robots and call them all Megazords.
Right? It's so hard to not
I just
do.
call them Zords anyway.
Because like one of
Yeah,
them
right?
is like
easier.
hard to pronounce, like Daijuza and Gordon.
Well, I call them Megazords. I also sometimes call them Power Ranger Transformers. I just like to figure out all.
Technically,
enough
the
ways
term
to,
is mecha.
I
Well,
make
actually,
someone
some
mad.
cases,
I
like
like one of their
References.
Megazords and Jiranger like a god or something.
Funny enough, Mega Man NT Warrior counts as mecha.
Well, in some cases, like example, like the Rhino Steel
does.
Sword or the Q-Rex.
That's
those
a series
like
I need to
Transformers.
watch.
It's like,
Yeah.
they don't even way around it.
But we should bop into just the other small things I had added in here.
Yeah, the franchise that neither of us actually know.
There's also Metal Hero. This is something that is. It sort of was out of the vogue for a while, and at least in
It's
the
making
case
a
of
comeback.
at least in the
Then
case of
they
the
showed-
Space Sheriffs, and I'm doing it again. In the case of the Space Sheriffs, in an effort that is once again seeming to be spearheaded by Koichi Sakamoto.
Then he showed up in Boba.
He's brought back-
Sakamoto is your god!
He's got this
our
dude,
god.
Gavin, the Space Sheriff, who's kind of based on RoboCop,
no.
teaming up with a bunch of
RoboCop came after.
Yeah, RoboCop came after.
RoboCop, who's based somewhat on this Space Sheriff guy. He's got this dude teaming up with a bunch of space-themed Super Sentai teams. So yeah, Sakamoto just keeps doing stuff. I'm
Civil
like,
War. Civil War.
let someone else, but no one else
No,
is.
because Sakamoto's just like Seiji Takaiba. He'll just say no, and he'll never say no.
Yeah.
He'll just keep doing it.
But Metal Heroes, the other thing about Metal Hero that I usually bring up is a lot of what Metal Hero is can be seen in a decent number of post-2000 Kamen Rider shows as far as just the tech, where these are supposed to be like equipping dudes who are wearing technology to fight evil. There are a lot of Rider shows that are.
I quickly go on and mention something. This actor right here, the grandson of Eiji Tsuburaya.
Yep.
Nemesis! Oh yeah, different company.
Yeah.
There's some interesting.
Screw you,
Nemesis
Dad, it's not a
stories, too.
phase!
Like there was
The thing is that-
the guy who was going to play the guy who wanted to one of the guys who auditioned for Kuga who almost got the role. They didn't give him the role due to not wanting to show any nepotism because he was like the son of another actor.
Oh.
They're very particular about. What's weird is they're particular about that, except in the case of Inoue, whose dad wrote for original Toku stuff, and he totally got nepotism into his position. But
Speedbond. Here we go.
Yeah. Spielvan's actually just got a sub.
He got turned into VR, and then of course he got turned into JB from VR Troopers.
yeah, VR Troopers is actually a beautiful, fascinating monster.
It is.
To dig through.
Just okay. We're gonna take 2 shows. Oh, 2 recent shows? No, 2 from the '80s. That was like 10 years ago. Exactly.
There's actually 3.
They'll
Yeah, 3
never
shows later on.
Yeah.
Because it's like
4.
ran out of stock, but
starts
get more.
Starts as 3, becomes 4 later.
Yeah,
doesn't some of
and
them
then
become
we're gonna try to
Beetleborgs
cut
or
it
something?
together. We're
Yeah,
gonna
Street
use
Fighter and
splicing
Street
to
Fighter
make it look like we
Beetleborgs.
actually
Yeah.
made this one show.
Yeah.
And I like in hindsight, like in the moment, whatever, it's kind of grabbing.
There's always the one shot in the VR Troopers opening that
Yeah.
just bugs me, and that's when I can't remember his name right now. Not Tyler, Ryan.
Ryan Steele.
Yeah, Ryan Steele. He's laying on the bed in his Mattelder outfit, and then immediately cut to American footage, and the suit is swapped. So, so like the blue side is now on the right instead of the
So
left.
I was kind of
Yeah.
glad that eventually they just said screw it and they just turned him into Shire.
Also, watch Mattelder. I have binge watched this show in April.
Yeah, Metal Gear is a show that is like
It is
just
great.
it's baseline solid tokusatsu. It's an unpredictable show. If you've watched a lot of like Toei tokusatsu, it breaks a lot of things you expect it to do. Like in the first episode, spoilers, dude basically goes to face the monsters and gets his ass kicked by everyone.
Yeah.
And then picks himself up and says, "Guess I shouldn't fight 50 of them at once."
Very much. He's like, well, I'm gonna go back.
It's like
He's
maybe
not
just,
talking dog.
maybe just one at a time. But yeah, Metal Hero is
Today
making
was
its comeback.
a
It's very
write-off.
space-themed comeback.
The only downside to
Q
Metal-
Ranger Civil War.
like the only downside to Metal Heroes is that there aren't really a whole lot of fan subs for it.
Yeah,
Like,
how like, I have trouble finding the Metal Gear fans. So.
transformation.
I know the first 4
Inspector.
series are subbed. The 5th season that was JB from VR Troopers is finally getting subbed.
Speedbond?
Yeah, Spielvan's finally getting subbed. The Windspector trilogy is getting subbed. No one subbed Jugo B Fighter, which is Big Bad Beetleborgs over here.
And then later.
Yeah.
And
Metallics
Beetleborg
is Speedfighter
Metallics.
Rockstar.
And Mattelder stuff.
Yeah, and also always remember when you see a Ryan Steele, that is originally Ryan Steele, aka Cybertron.
Yeah, so,
Oh, so it was originally supposed to be played by JD.
Yeah, Jason David Frank as Ryan Steele as
Until they
Cybertron.
realized, oh shit, Tommy is way
A whole
too
bunch of stuff we
popular.
can't actually
Yeah,
do.
your friend Tyler, TJ Omega, did a joke about that for his Figure Arts review of the Dragon Ranger. It's like, so you guys were in the same show, what was it going to be called? And it just shows the Primus figure. Oh. I see.
And I'm like, oh no, Tommy Oliver's too popular. We can't,
By the way, Jason David Frank now has done a voice in Transformers.
Yep, he is.
Oh my God.
And
he's
he's
in one of the
also-
Machinima series as
Oh,
Emissary.
And that evil
And
version.
his voice direction was, hey JDF, just read what's on the page.
That sounds right.
Emissary's character is Jason David Frank. That's who he is.
That's sad.
He's a tiny little dude who powers up cities, and he goes like, hey, we gotta go power up this city! Hey you better get up and get in the fight!
So he has more personality than the other voice actors, which is a problem.
Oh no, he has much less because he's just him. And JDF has one level. It's about here. But it's very loud.
Wait, on the table or from the ground?
It's on the table because he's loud.
Okay.
But then every now and then he shouts really hard. You think, oh, is he up here? But you're like, oh no, it was just like 3 of these.
Funny enough, Devastator was played by Rob Dyke, who does Seriously Strange on YouTube.
What's actually interesting is that Tokusatsu's legacy that actually carry on over here to the west again is that a lot of like Kikaider and Kikaider, Go Ranger, and a couple of others would actually be the direct inspiration for the 2003 very beloved Teen Titans cartoon. In fact, the point where Cyborg is literally basically a carbon copy of Kikaider, except drawn with Cyborg's parts.
Another funny thing is that Derek J.
here we
Wyatt,
have
the
Derek
art
Wyatt, yep.
Yeah.
director for Teen Titans, really likes Tokusatsu because there was a hero in Teen Titans designed after Inazuman, and in Ben 10 there was an alien called Way Big, which was basically
Yep,
just an Ultraman.
Ultraman.
Yeah, I miss Derek Wyatt. If you're out
Also,
there,
I
please
think
come
he
back.
dead?
No, he's around.
thank
He
God.
got off Twitter. A lot of people in animation who were working on the Green Lantern cartoon were really mad at how the Green Lantern cartoon got canceled, and it was the final straw for a lot of them.
Wait, why did it get canceled?
It was just the usual Cartoon Network thing, but it was
Oh,
like
toys weren't selling.
it happened to this group of guys for the one last time they would put up with it, and a lot of them I haven't seen a lot of them on Twitter for a
Oh,
while.
yeah, Transformers Animated also got canceled.
Yeah.
Well,
we were
it's,
supposed to
at
At least
see
Young
Shattered
Justice is getting a
Glass.
3rd season.
It got to end,
6.
but
What?
it didn't get to have a home video release for a while because Cartoon Network didn't like the hub.
Okay.
This is a whole different panel.
Yeah.
But the nature of animated is
Astro Boards.
it didn't get robbed of another season. They
Okay.
just had plans for another one. If they did get the go-ahead. But the hub went all kooky.
Oh my god, the Astro Borgs had human forms in the Japanese version.
Oh yeah. We just didn't want to use that footage.
We just got a bump to 2 other
Funny
things.
enough, in the Teen Titans Big Trouble in Little Tokyo movie, there is a Japanese supervillain that does. He's very similar to
Garo.
Double.
This is an interesting.
So I was talking about Koichi Sakamoto a whole lot. There's another creative in Tokyo that I really like, who I feel sometimes gets forgotten when he doesn't have new Garo coming out. His name's Keita Amemiya. He's worked on a lot more stuff. Garo is just his baby. This is what Garo is. This is a creative getting to do precisely what he wants the way he wants to, even if it doesn't make money, even if there is no toy line to go with it.
He actually did a Sentai.
Yeah, he's
This
done a whole
is
bunch of
adult.
stuff.
He did Jetman, he did Kamen
actual
Rider,
adult.
well,
Yeah.
already
Oh
shown.
my god, it's so adult.
But like
Actual
he
meant for adults.
basically was like, I want to do this show. I want it to air at 2 in-the-morning. I want to have a special effects team. He like hand storyboards. Some like not all series, but the series where he spearheaded the show, he like drew all the storyboards. He would show the storyboards to the CG guys and go like, "How does this work?" And so this show is not the only example, but it's my easiest example of Tokusatsu as a medium, where this is artist driven Tokusatsu in a way. This show is the primary thing, and then the toys that were done for the show came
Like the
afterwards.
City Wards and such.
Yeah, like all the toys for Garo
The
happened.
ring that you have.
Yeah, I have a little man here. He's asleep. He
Why
he
that
be
golden
helping
guy
out
with like the Solaris
panel.
Knight outfit when he's like not having like the armor on?
A bit.
Yeah.
It just looks like Solaris Knight, I don't know.
But like this show, this is from a series that came after a sort of hiatus on Garo, and then a couple movies where I thought maybe they had no physical suit anymore. This scene I like because this was kind of the reveal that we still have a Garo physical suit, and we still know how to do Garo the way you like it.
Yeah, because wasn't there like a 4-year gap between seasons?
There was a 4-year. There was season 1, then there was Beast of the White Knight, then
Yeah.
there was a big gap, and then there was this 1-2
Red
punch
Requiem?
of Red Requiem, which was okay, and the Gaiden for Kiba, which I didn't like at the time. I need to rewatch it now that it's out officially. By the way, if you like Garo, a lot of the good original Garo run is available on Blu-ray right now.
$50 for half the season.
Yeah, it's
That's
out.
the only downside.
Well, Requiem and I mean the less good, the one-offs I think are a bit cheaper.
Yeah, but when your show is only 25 episodes and you're only paying $50 for, say, like 13 episodes.
I guess to me it's worth it only because it's still localized Toku. And like the last thing I ever thought I would see is I can go on Amazon and order Garo that isn't like bootlegged.
Yeah, bootleg DVD.
But yeah, Garo, the original Garo series from 06 still had its moments, which were not as strong, but this is a classic scene for a lot of people. This is also a certain stunt team whose name now just slipped out of my brain, where one Mark Musashi got a lot of work, who's a dude that used to be in the Toku Vogue. He's kind of fallen back out of it, but he's one of the fight actors in this. He's also the suit actor for Ray, or Zero. But I'll fast forward to the bit everyone tends to remember from this, which is these two guys don't like each other, so they go onto a rooftop, and there's a monster up there who gets killed in like 2 seconds, and they're like, hey, let's play, let's see who the bigger boy is, and so they have a little boy fight.
Want to go do karate in the garage?
Yeah. But this is an example also of like how much this show just wanted to do what it wanted to do. Like on a 2 a.m. in the morning budget, they're like, let's have these two guys have a fight while they go grinding down between twin skyscrapers.
Jesus Christ.
That actually sounds pretty badass.
And it's really friggin' cool. Like you can see some of the seams on this
Man,
if
there's
you
bigger
go through it.
screen.
But
there's a bigger screen.
this is by far one of my favorite sequences from the first half of the show. Like this was the moment when I watched this show where I was like, this is different. Like this isn't Toei stuff that I've been watching.
Is this the original release or the HD remaster that
This
they
is
did?
I ripped this off YouTube. So this is a very old clip.
Right. But Garo actually did get a HD remaster release late, like 10 years later for its 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, because there is now a lot of Garo. Garo
There
has
is.
become annual, but not in the sense that they do like a new Garo every year. But it's like
it's
there's
like every 2-3 years.
yeah, there's like
It's
a show. There's also like 3 or 4
specials.
anime series
Yeah,
now.
Funimation has the rights to the Garo animes.
Yeah, there's also multiple timelines now.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Season 3 started that.
Yeah.
In which a few Kamen Rider actors have appeared in
Yeah.
Garo.
Like Decade is in.
Decade is in the
It's one of the Zero movies. I think.
5th season, I think.
The guy who played Ark and Ray from
Yeah,
Kiva is in one of the Garo movies.
Takatora, Kamen Rider Zangetsu,
He's
was in the 4th
goofball-
movie.
He's a goofball scarecrow in that
Yeah.
movie. It's really fun watching that movie if you've watched Gaim.
Yeah.
It's like anti-Takatora. He's not Hawk Tiger.
Yes.
That's the annoying thing that bugs me about like a lot of shows like that. Continuity gets screwed up. Oh, it's just another universe. Explains it away.
It keeps it nice and fresh though. 'Cause
I
if you-
know,
if
it's
you
just-
try- if you
sometimes
actually
they
try to
abuse
balance
it
all of it, it's
sometimes,
kind of
though,
like,
it's
oh
like-
man.
If you try to question continuity, then you're just.
Yeah, I know. I get it. I just
It's like a
There's
comic
just-
book. Nothing makes
It's
sense.
gonna be like Crisis on Infinite Earths. You're gonna be like, okay, it's gonna take a few years until I actually can watch a show. Oh, and Android
This is like
Kaider.
a quick clip I like to show. That's Hakaider. That's
Hakaider.
original Hakaider. He's a goofy-looking 70s robot with a brain on his head.
Hey, don't diss Hakaider. I've seen the show as well. Hakaider is actually a badass.
No, he is.
Don't watch Hakaider 01. They ruin the character.
But where this
Oh,
comes from is
absolutely.
this is Hakaider as people knew him, and then Keita Amemiya in the 90s just sort of did a Terminator movie, but with Hakaider.
Oh boy.
Which is one of my favorite movies. I watched this on a big screen once when a friend of mine was quitting a theater and we could watch whatever we wanted for a night. So this is if you've never seen this movie, this is one of my favorite Toku movies. It's insane. This is Mechanical Violator Hakaider. This is a badassified Hakaider with no real origin. He's just found in a cave.
Holy crap.
And then kills everybody. And then he goes to this city called Jesus Town. Which is run by this
It's kinda
Michael
dumb.
Jackson. It's a Michael Jackson looking guy with one wing on his jacket who runs Jesus Town, where he lobotomizes dissidents.
Oh my God.
And he has this white robot angel called Michael who works for him. And so Hakaider shows up to save all of the people who are being crushed under the Jesus Town rule of law. And there is some I like this movie because this is really raw, really unquestioned ideas.
And this was Keita Amemiya as well, right?
Yeah, this is some pure Amamiya. The big fight between Michael and Hakaider at the end of this is in a big white office, and whenever he shoves Michael through one of the white walls, it breaks, and there's crimson bloody red underneath it.
Oh, God.
So by the end of the fight, it looks like the walls are bleeding, and then Michael gets like grabbed by a giant arm. He gets like somehow transformed into a huge monster with a buzzsaw on its chin that looks like Kikaider.
Oh my
It
God.
had Kaider's face.
Yeah, it's a really friggin' cool movie, and I like. There's a dub of it, which is not too great. I watched it. It is subbed as well. There's an actual official DVD release from 2005 of this
is it?
under the Keita Amemiya collection, which is 2 movies.
That's it's better than nothing.
It was that and Zerum 2, basically, that they released domestically. Zerum's also pretty cool, but this is more Toku-y.
By the way, yo, camera guy, this is what we're doing for Halloween.
Okay.
I already had this planned.
I'm down.
Finally, he just stepped on that. All these soldiers are lobotomized people as well.
What's his purpose?
To punch things.
And here, this is the big fight. If you look carefully, you can see some red there. That's on. Yeah, it's just bloody red stuff coming out of the walls. Michael's also rude. There's a point where Hokkaido slaughters a bunch of these mooks, and then Michael finds one who's surviving, crawling to Michael, saying, "Please help! He killed us all!" And Michael says,
Fuck that man.
"How dare you not die like all of your brothers?"
And I'll look
then
down and say
shoves
no.
his hand into the mook's helmet, and just a big spray of blood goes all over.
Just looking from this trailer, I just see the Akira music, like, oh.
It's that plus Terminator 2.
Oh, no.
It's like Akira
Robo
music with
Man
dun-dun-dun-dun behind it. So that's our Keita movie. The last thing we had in here, which we don't really have time for, because you probably all know it, is Akiba Ranger.
Yay!
I know I threw it in here for folks who were getting more of an education thing out of this panel. But I think you guys know Akiba Ranger.
And my battery's at 2 minutes.
Well, we have literally 1 minute left.
So, thank you everyone for coming to the Tokusatsu panel.
Yeah.
Listen to Cast Ranger.
Thanks for plugging that.
Yay!
And go check out, if you're watching this on YouTube, go back in time to Sunday, July the 29th at 1 o'clock and go check out the Collector Theory 101 panel that's happening on that date at that time.
Alright, guess that's, we gotta get out of here.
Yeah, we did.